I grew up thinking love had clear boundaries. This person is family, and that one is not. But some feelings don't care about labels. What started as a comfortable bond slowly turned into something I never expected. Aisha was the daughter of my mom's closest friend. She's been in my life as long as I can remember: birthday balloons, summer road trips, family dinners. We were always together. People called us like siblings, and we played that part without thinking. She called my mom Auntie, and my mom loved her like her own. As kids, we teased each other, stole snacks from the kitchen, and fought over the TV remote. But as the years passed, the playful girl I once raced bikes with grew into a quiet, thoughtful young woman with eyes full of emotions I couldn't quite understand. I first noticed the change during a random conversation. She laughed at one of my silly jokes, and something about that moment stuck with me. Later, I found myself thinking about her smile, replaying it in my head like a song on repeat. We were both growing up, and college had changed us. She carried herself with a quiet confidence now. Her voice was softer, but her opinions were stronger. And without realizing it, I started seeing her differently, not as a sister, not as family, but as someone whose presence mattered to me in a way I couldn't explain. I'd catch myself staring at her when she wasn't looking, and when she laughed, it made my chest feel warm, but also a little uneasy. One evening, she was helping my mom in the kitchen, and I walked in to watch her laugh with my mother. That moment hit me hard. She looked like she belonged there, in my home, in my life, but not as a sister. That realization shook me. I couldn't sleep that night, as my mind flipped between memories of us as kids and this strange truth that something inside me had changed. I didn't know what to do with these feelings. What made it harder was how natural everything still felt. We talked like we always had, laughed like we always did, but now every word seemed to have more meaning. Every glance lasted just a little longer. One day, we were walking home after grabbing coffee. Our hands brushed, and she didn't pull away. Neither did I. It wasn't a big moment, but I felt something, a rush, not of guilt, but of something real, something honest. It scared me because of what it could mean. Was I wrong for feeling this way? For wanting something more with someone who was technically family but never truly felt like a sister? I didn't have the answers, but I knew I couldn't keep lying to myself. Something was changing. And though I didn't fully understand it yet, I was starting to realize that love doesn't always follow rules. Sometimes, it just grows quietly, unexpectedly, and without asking permission. It started happening more often. Those pauses in our conversations, those glances that lingered a little too long. Aisha and I never said anything out loud, but something had shifted. The comfort we'd always shared was still there, but now it carried tension, a pull neither of us could ignore. When she spoke, I listened differently. When she laughed, it echoed deeper inside me. And when she went quiet, I felt it like a weight. She began opening up to me more, not just about surface things, but about her real thoughts, dreams, and doubts. Late at night, I'd just watch her talk, amazed at how someone I'd known my whole life suddenly felt brand new. She didn't know it, but every word she spoke made me feel closer to her. It was no longer just familiarity, it was connection. Real and growing. One day, while talking about the future, she looked at me and asked, "Do you ever feel like people expect us to be something we're not?" Her voice was calm, but her eyes said more. That question wasn't just about life, it was about us. I hesitated, then nodded, because I did feel it. People expected us to stay in the roles we'd always played, but we weren't those same kids anymore. I began feeling it stronger whenever we were close. Her presence stirred something inside me, not just attraction, but a deep desire to understand her completely. To be the reason she smiled. to be the person she ran to when life got too loud. But it came with guilt. Every time my heart beat faster near her, my mind whispered that it shouldn't. Still, I couldn't ignore it. I started noticing how she looked at me, too. Not often, but in brief moments, like when her eyes lingered on me just a second too long, or when her voice softened just for me. It wasn't in my head. I felt it. She did, too. There was a moment when it was just the two of us, sitting quietly after a long day. The air between us felt heavy with everything we weren't saying. I looked at her, and this time, she didn't look away. Her eyes held mine, calm and steady, like she was waiting for me to say what we both already knew. My chest tightened. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to say that she was more than just someone from my childhood, more than a family friend. That I had fallen for her slowly, helplessly, and completely. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. I was afraid of what it might change, afraid of what we might lose. Instead, I smiled gently, and she smiled back. We sat in that silence, wrapped in something we couldn't name, but both of us felt. In that quiet moment, everything became clear. Whatever this was, it wasn't just in my heart, it was in hers, too. The day it finally changed between us wasn't planned. There were no perfect words, no dramatic confessions, just an ordinary moment that became unforgettable. We were laughing about something silly, and suddenly, the space between us felt smaller. She looked at me, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen, and without thinking, I reached for her hand. This time, she didn't just let it happen. She held it tighter. And that one touch said more than any words ever could. For the first time, we allowed ourselves to feel it without guilt. The comfort we'd always shared was still there, but now it was wrapped in warmth, curiosity, and something deeper. That night, we talked. Really talked. Not just about us, but about the confusion, the fear, and the constant pressure of what people might think. She admitted that for a long time, she tried to ignore what she felt. Every time something stirred inside her, she buried it under the idea that we were just supposed to be family. But feelings don't follow rules. They don't care about labels or expectations. She told me that there were moments when she'd see me and feel something she couldn't name. It scared her, so she kept pretending it wasn't there. I understood that more than anyone, I'd done the same thing. We were both afraid of being judged, of hurting our families, and of losing the bond we'd always had. But as we spoke, all those fears started to fade. Not because they didn't matter, but because being honest with each other felt more important than hiding. We weren't doing anything wrong. We weren't breaking any rules. We were just two people who grew up close, and somewhere along the way, love had quietly found its way in. There was a calm between us, a peace that came from finally understanding each other. I looked at her and said, "It's not about what we've been called. It's about what we feel. And I feel you, Aisha, every day, in every way." Her eyes shimmered, not with doubt, but with something brave and gentle. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and that was the beginning. Not of a new relationship, but of something we could finally be honest about. We decided not to rush anything. We wanted to take it slow and give it space to grow. But the feeling of being free to laugh a little longer, to speak without pretending, to just be ourselves, was something neither of us had ever known in this way. It wasn't just romance. It was trust. It was years of knowing each other evolving into something we never expected, but now couldn't imagine life without. We promised to protect what we had, not from the world, but for ourselves. Because love like this, quiet, respectful, and real, didn't need anyone's permission. It just needed truth. And now we had that. From that moment on, everything between us felt natural, unforced. We didn't need to define it for anyone else. We understood what it was. Our conversations grew deeper, more meaningful. She became the first person I wanted to talk to in the morning, the last voice I wanted to hear at night. There was no more pretending. When I looked at her, it was with clarity, not confusion. I wasn't hiding from what I felt anymore. I was embracing it. It amazed me how simple love felt once it was accepted. We didn't need grand declarations. The little things, like how she'd text me when something reminded her of a shared memory, how she listened to me without trying to fix anything, or the way her presence made all the noise in my mind fade away, meant more than anything. It wasn't about a label. It was about the connection that had always been there, now seen with honest eyes. Of course, we still kept it between us. Not out of shame, but because it was still delicate, still growing. We didn't want outside voices to shape something so personal. We were building something real, and real things take time. Slowly, we let our families see how close we were, though they didn't know the depth of it. We didn't owe them explanations yet. This was ours. One evening, as we walked together, she said something that stayed with me. We didn't fall in love. We grew into it. And she was right. Ours wasn't a sudden spark. It was a slow burn, steady and quiet, but powerful. It was built on years of knowing each other, of seeing the worst, and still choosing to stay. We had loved each other long before we realized it was love. What made it even more special was how safe it felt. There was no pressure to be perfect. We could just be flawed, confused, growing. She knew my fears, my doubts, and didn't run from them. I saw her strength, her softness, and only admired her more. We didn't complete each other. We added to each other. We didn't need to prove anything. The way we looked at each other said enough. Eventually, we knew we'd have to tell our families. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. When we did, we'd do it with honesty and confidence, not apology. Because what we had wasn't built on impulse. It was built on time, trust, and truth. And no matter how others chose to see it, we knew what it was. Looking back, I'm grateful love didn't show up loudly. It came in quietly, through memories, through moments, through all the things we thought were ordinary. And that's what made it extraordinary. We weren't supposed to fall for each other, but we did. And it turned out to be the most natural, beautiful thing that ever happened to us.